Hi and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would do my July wrap up. Now I didn't end up doing a mid-July wrap up like I did back in June, but I have plenty of books to talk about today. I actually read 10 books in July, which is fantastic considering I was gone for a little bit, although I was on vacation and I read on vacation. But July is kind of my last month before school starts and things start ramping up for that. So it was a decent month reading numbers wise. It was a meh month book quality wise, but I'll get more into that as I talk about each book. I may or may not do some spoilers in here, so I will make sure I alarm you before I get there, because there are a couple of books that I'm just I maybe irked by or really just looking to talk about. So why don't we go ahead and get started. So the first book that I read in the month of July was Even If We Break by Marieke Nijkamp. This was a book that I had on NetGalley. I did it as part of my NetGalley try a chapter vlog that I did not too long ago, and it was meh. I have really liked some of her books. Actually, one of my favorite YA books she wrote, I thought I had it. Oh, I'll link it here. This is where it ends. I am probably getting that wrong. But anyway, she wrote that book and oh, it's just so fantastic. I tell everybody to read it. And so I had really high hopes for this one. Basically, it's a group of friends who are going to this cabin who is owned by one of the girls' families. I didn't realize that there would be some like LARPing or live action role playing as a part of this. They actually play this game as a group together. And it's kind of one of those slowly, one by one, people start dying and you don't know if somebody else is in the cabin or if one of them is doing it. And I just expected a lot more out of it and I didn't enjoy it. So I think I gave it a friendly 2 and we'll leave it at that. So the next book that I read after that one was the newest Riley Sager book that I probably have been talking about all summer, was The House Across the Lake. This was his newest release that came out in June. Finally picked it up, and I wanted to pick it up so that my mom could read it while we were on vacation. I really enjoyed it. Now, when I rated it, I gave it a 4.5. Reflecting back, it's probably more about a 4. But I did enjoy it going through it. Basically, it is this actor slash actress, excuse me, who needs to take some time away because she kind of went a little crazy. So she's taking it at her family cabin on this lake and starts to spy on her neighbors. Now, she is an extremely unreliable narrator because she's constantly drinking, but she sees things start to happen and kind of takes matters into her own hands. Now, it's important to know that her husband has also drowned on this lake. I don't think that's spoiling anything. But, and there's some paranormal aspects in it. So I really enjoyed it. I know others have had mixed reviews, but for me it was a decent summer read. The next book up that I read was The Life We Bury by Eskens. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. This one was fantastic. This was my first 5-star read of July, and I am so happy I finally picked it up after hearing so many people talk about it. Basically, you have a college student who has been assigned that he needs to interview somebody, a stranger, and write a biography. And he doesn't have a lot of family around, so he decides to go to a nursing home, and he asks, like, is there anybody I can interview? And they say, how about Carl? Well, Carl ends up being a Vietnam veteran who was also convicted of a murder, and he would not be out of prison unless he was truly ailing. And so they can't even believe that this Carl agrees to talk to the main character, whose name is Joe. And he's kind of, you know, depicting his life to this college student. And Joe kind of starts to put things together and is looking into whether or not Carl is innocent. So it definitely had me turning the pages really fast because I wanted to figure out what was going to happen. Things went down that I just never expected, and I really enjoyed this one. 5-star for sure. The one I did after that was Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. I am so happy I'm starting to get more into her books because I am really enjoying them so far. This one was an early release with Book of the Month. I believe it came out on July 19th. I also had the ARC ebook and audiobook of this one. So I ended up listening to it while I was on vacation, and really actually enjoyed it. I gave it a 4. And this one is this woman who basically you are getting perspectives between two different people. And this woman is basically almost being convicted of killing her husband because she is found in the bathroom with a straight razor and he's in the tub and he's dead, and that's what they're thinking. And she has basically covered up her previous life. So this is the new life that she's living. And then we are also getting the perspective of a woman named Ruby who is convicted of a murder that's very similar to the one that has happened. And slowly you find out whether or not these two women are connected and what goes on from there. Really intriguing. I love multiple timelines and I love multiple characters, and it was really interesting to see the life that the main character in this book, Paris, is trying to get away from. So 4 stars for sure. I really enjoyed that one. Oh, the next book I read. This one is probably going to contain spoilers. Warning. So our book of the month, book for book club in July, was Comfort and Joy by Kristin Hannah. We were doing the whole like Christmas in July kind of theme. Now, did this book really have a lot of Christmassy stuff around it? Not really. This book utterly perplexed me and I got so angry. Basically, this woman finds out that her sister and her husband were cheating behind her back. And so she decides to jump on a plane and just kind of take off. The plane goes down, and you kind of find this out right away, and she decides to walk away from the scene. And the whole time, my brain is screaming, like, you can hear and see the rescuers. Why are you walking away? So the whole time that was perplexing, and I'm texting my cousin as I'm going through this, and she's like, just keep going, just keep going. And she walks into this small town and decides that she's gonna stay at this lodge that is no longer actually running, but the son of the owner lets her in, and she just stays there and starts to have like these connections with these people. It all threw me for a loop, and there are some paranormal things that go on in this book, and instant love, which I just don't believe in, and the whole thing just had me perplexed. And you come to find out she kind of was a ghost or imagining all of this because she was in a coma after the plane crash, to which she wakes up and her sister is there, and she's fully okay with forgiving her sister, which, if I were in those shoes, I don't have a sister, but if my sister slept with my husband and then decided to get married and was gonna have a baby, I don't think I could talk to my sister. But I digress. I gave this one a 3 when I read it. That was a very friendly 3. I love, love, love Kristin Hannah. The Nightingale and The Greater Loan are 2 of my favorite books of all time, but this one just perplexed me. So that's enough about that one. The next book I read, I really enjoyed, and I was super surprised by. This was one that I got off of NetGalley, called Bad Luck Bridesmaid by Alison Rose Greenberg. I'll put an image up here. I loved this book. It is about time that we get a strong female character who is not willing to bend in her ways for love. And yes, there is something to be said about give and take and all of that, but I love that she was such a strong character. There is heartbreak in this book. It will pull at your heartstrings. I was sobbing. Thank gosh I was in the camper alone by myself that night, because I was bawling, because there are parts that are truly heartbreaking, and then there are parts that you are screaming because this woman is willing to hold herself and what she wants at such high value that she's not willing to give it up. And I loved that about this story. I don't want to give too much away, but this one was a 5-star for me, which I think is shocking because I don't tend to give 5 stars to quote unquote romance books, but it kind of pulled me through the ringer of emotions and I really enjoyed it. The next book was The Counselors by Jessica Goodman. I do believe this one is considered YA. I gave it a 4. I really liked it. I used to actually work at a summer camp when I lived in the Northwoods, which I really enjoyed, and that was kind of the first glimpse into the summer camp world that I got. These girls are going back to the camp that they've attended as children. They grew up going there, and now they're going to be counselors, maybe even junior counselors, but I'm pretty sure they were just counselors. One of them, our main character, Goldie, actually lives in this town, and the reason that she's able to go to the camp is because both of her parents work there, where most of the other campers slash counselors that are now coming to campus counselors pay mega dollars to attend this camp. And it turns out her friends, Goldie's friends, kind of don't know a lot of the things that have happened in Goldie's life outside of their camp life. And so she's been pushing them away for the last year. Then a murder happens at camp and things kind of start to spiral. It's a murder of a kid that's from town. They call him a townie. And eventually you kind of see how all of these things are connected and the way things come out. So I don't want to give too much away. I did really enjoy it. And for me, I could picture the atmosphere of being at camp. So I think that was a solid plus for me, but she did a really good job at kind of setting up the scene. And yeah, so it was definitely one that I would pick up in the summer. The next one I picked up was another one off of NetGalley. I'm really trying to up that percentage point. This was Stay Awake by Megan Goldin, which I do believe is finally released now. Basic premise is our main character, I cannot remember for the life of me what her name is, wakes up in a cab. She's on her way to her old address. She rings her address, from what she thinks, rings the doorbell, finds somebody else living there, and they're like, no, you don't live here, and kind of kick her off in the street. And she's realizing she's got all of these notes written all over her arms that say stay awake, don't fall asleep, things like that. And come to find out, it has been 2 years and she cannot remember what has happened in the last 2 years. She only knows that she's got all of these notes all over her arms and she has a bloody knife with her. So every time she falls asleep, her brain resets back 2 years. And so you're constantly trying to keep up with the story because she keeps forgetting. And that was one thing that I had a hard time dealing with when I was reading this book. Yes, it's part of the character, but I was like, okay, we know this. Like, can we just move on and try to solve the murder that is happening, because you are also getting a perspective of a detective. I also forget her name. So you're switching chapters back and forth between our main character and this detective, and they're looking for our main character to try to solve all of this. And so I think I just kept getting frustrated because I was like, no, we just keep going back to that same point that she can't remember. So before I give too much away, I gave this one a 3.5. Probably being nice, it's probably more of a 3. I was happy to be able to get it early, and I actually got the ebook and the audiobook, but it's not one that I'll probably ever pick up again. Whereas Megan Goldin's other book that I read, The Night Swim, was fantastic. So hit or miss with every author, and that's fine. The next book and last physical book that I picked up for July was Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. This one is about our name character, Persephone, but they actually call her Percy, and she is going back to the small town where her and her family spent every summer, because they used to have like a cabin or a house on a lake. She is going back for the funeral of the mother of the two boys she hung out with every summer that she was there. Each summer, she basically was inseparable from this Sam and his brother. I can't remember what his brother's name was now. That is gonna drive me crazy. Charlie. Sam and Charlie. And as you can probably tell, eventually Sam and Percy kind of fall for each other. They're teenagers. It's teenage love, and they're hoping that they're going to go off to college and it's going to be this great thing and they're going to stay together even though they're not, going to be together all of the time. And you basically are getting the perspective of each of their summers that they had together and how that pursues. I've heard this compared to Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. That book gripped me so hard, and this one was good, so I don't think it was as good as that one, but I did enjoy it. I gave it a 4. But it's really, I think it's neat because you're getting their current day perspectives, and they haven't talked for years. And then you're also getting the perspective of the summers that they grew up together. So it was good. Yeah, 4-star for me for sure. And then the last book that I picked up was Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentill. I believe I'm probably pronouncing that one wrong. This is another one that I got off of NetGalley. Supposed to be a thriller. Premise was you have these 4 people that are in a library and they hear a scream and they've come to find out someone is murdered, and you know that one of the 4 people sitting at this table was the murderer. Great premise. I thought it sounded fantastic. It also kind of has 2 storylines in it where you're getting this story of the murder in the library and these 4 different people, and how they basically become fast friends, which I questioned, but anyway. But then at the end of each chapter, you are getting letters to the author of the person writing this story. So to me, it was almost too much in each chapter. It was hard to remember the fact that this book was being written by someone, and then we were going to get that letter, and there were things going on with that, but then also the things that are actually going on in the story of these characters that were in the library and how they're all connected. It just was a lot to keep, not even to keep straight, because it was easy to keep straight, but it just felt like too much trying to be crammed into one book. I feel like if they would have just went with kind of one storyline or the other, it was too much. So I gave this one a 3. It was a friendly 3, but it is definitely not a thriller that I will be picking up anytime soon again. So those are all 10 books that I read in July. I will list them all below just in case you want to check them out. What did you read in July? Did you have any favorites? I can kind of tell my reading habits are starting to slump a little bit, so I am looking for some fantastic book recommendations. If you have any, put them below in the comments. I can't wait to see what you say. As always, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.